Welcome to our 43rd episode of In Conversation with Convergence. My name is George Evans, and as you know, this is a monthly podcast where we feature our clients and special guests. We help you to get to know the market leaders in the asset management industry and some of the top issues facing the industry. I am joined today by Jerry Arteaga. Jerry is the current CEO of Valor Exterior Services and also a former operating partner of Cold Bore Capital Management. And for those of you who don't know, Cold Bore is a veteran-led private equity firm that partners with business owners to transition leadership to elite military veterans. Jerry, how are you? Thank you for joining me.
Oh, I'm well, George. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Let me tell our readers and listeners why this matters, and then we'll kind of get right into your background. You know, it's funny, we're taping this on Election Day. This will get distributed a few days after, but as we approach Veterans Day, I think the real premise here, for me at least, is this conversation highlights, I think, the often overlooked potential of veterans in the civilian workforce, especially in blue-collar businesses that are critical to America's infrastructure. So Jerry today is going to talk about how people empower veterans to lead, to innovate, and to really give veterans a chance to kind of thrive as they make that transition into civilian life. So I'm thrilled to have you, Jerry. I think it's just such an important topic, and I think we want to get this out and around Veterans Day when people pay attention to this. Why don't we start, Jerry, with a little bit about your background for our audience, what you did, particularly in the military, and then we'll move on from there.
Yeah, sure thing, George. So I'm originally from South Texas, the Rio Grande Valley area. It's way down south in the tip of Texas. So I joined the military a few days after graduating high school at 17. When I went in, I was, I signed up for, a 3-year contract in the infantry, and those 3 years turned into 23 very quickly. When I joined, my first duty station was in Hawaii. I spent 2 years there, and a close friend of mine suggested that we go to Special Forces assessment and selection together. So at the age of 20, I went. At the blink of an eye, I had spent 17 years in the 7th Special Forces Group. I had the opportunity to deploy 23 times to various places around the globe. I spent a few rotations in Afghanistan and Iraq, 4 in Afghanistan and 2 in Iraq, to be specific, and 18 deployments to Latin America and the Caribbean as part of the larger global war on terror. I retired in January of 2021 and joined Cold Bore Capital out of Chicago. They're a lower middle market PE firm, as you mentioned, that focuses on service businesses. When I joined them, I joined as an operating partner, where I was able to leverage my military leadership experience and a lot of other traits that make leaders successful. And I also went to Kellogg Northwestern's School of Business, where I was able to layer in a business acumen on top of my military leadership experience. And, the end result is what Sergio Cepeda and Cold Bore Capital believe is an optimal operating partner, somebody who has years of military experience and the business sense to help provide value and grow companies that we acquire.
Yeah.
So
talk a little bit about, Jerry, talk a little bit about the transition from the military, right? Just in general, and some of the challenges that you feel people face, right? Just making that transition.
Yeah, sure. I talk to a lot of veterans since I've been out of the military. A lot of them looking to get into private equity and other parts of the business world, and I think that there's a few mistakes that veterans make, especially within the special operations community. In the special operations community, we're brought up to be very secretive. You don't tell people what you do. You definitely don't have a personal brand. In the U.S. Army Special Forces, the Green Berets kind of mantra is the quiet professional, right? We're good at our jobs, but we don't promote. So I think as veterans transition, the biggest mistake they make is not starting the transition process early enough. As you enter the civilian world, and specifically pivoting from the military into business, your network is really where your network's going to be able to provide you the most value. And your network in the military is definitely different than the kind of network you need to kind of break into a business role. So mistake number one is not networking soon enough and with the right people. Mistake number two from a veteran, and I hear it a lot, is believing that a job is going to fall into your lap just because of what you did in the military. Obviously in the cases of general officers and admirals and whatnot, that is likely to happen. But I was an NCO. I retired as an E9, a sergeant major, and that's not always the case. And so outside of the military, people want to know what you can provide them now, right? So besides saying, hey, thank you for your service, the next question is, what can you do for me and how can you make us more profitable? And I think veterans overestimate what their role in the military, what doors their role in the military will open for them when they get out. And I'm a little fuzzy on the stat, but I believe that something like 70% of veterans leave their first job after leaving the military within the first year. And that's because I think a lot of folks really don't do the research to understand the role they're taking, to understand what it takes to actually fill the role. And so they're largely unhappy and end up switching jobs. I was fortunate enough to where when I joined Cold War Capital, it was a great fit, and it kind of helped me set up the next role, and the role I'm in now. But so yes, overestimating what your title and position was in the military as you get out, and not preparing for the next role are two of the biggest mistakes.
Yeah, you talked a little. Jerry, you talked a little bit about networking, right? And not networking early enough. Talk about some of the organizations that you work with, right? That might help with that networking, right? As opposed to the burden being just on the individual.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of nonprofits out there. One that I specifically work with, I sit on the board of directors. It's called Owners in Honor. It was founded by a retired Green Beret Lieutenant Colonel. His name's Patrick Flood. Owners in Honor's mission is to assist veterans in becoming entrepreneurs through acquisition. So they follow an ETA model where veterans come to Owners in Honor and say, hey, I want to become an entrepreneur. Owners in Honor does a quick kind of assessment of, hey, are you ready to do this? Because it is an undertaking. And the gist of the program is Owners in Honor creates a cohort of fellows, provides them some basic business training while we're figuring out some basic information. Where do you live? Where do you want to buy a business at? What industry do you want to work in? And then the foundation has several advisors that mentor and guide the fellow through the program. So Owners in Honor helps them apply for the SBA loan. They help them find bridge financing if they don't have the money to put down upfront. Then we partner with strategic partners like Cold War Capital, who then helps the veteran after an acquisition, or even before the acquisition, with like operational due diligence, financial due diligence, pretty much guides them through the purchase of the business. And then after the acquisition, helps set them up for success through best practices. And again, leveraging their mentor, like somebody like myself, to answer questions throughout their entire process. And Owners in Honor is different from a lot of veteran nonprofits because they stay with the veteran throughout the life of the business. So their intent is, it's a
Interesting.
10-year plan, right? So they're not just hey, fire and forget. Here's here's the help that you needed to get started. Good luck. No, Owners in Honor is with the veteran throughout the life of the business. If everything works out well, that veteran will exit his business to another veteran in the Owners in Honor pipeline. And then it's just continuing to build. So one veteran helping another.
So then it just, the continuum, right? And I did read when I did a little homework, and it's not a complete list, but I know you're also working, work with the Navy SEAL Foundation, with Disabled American Veterans, and really a number of, well-pedigreed organizations. So.
Yes, so Colbor Capital has created or has entered partnerships with the DAV and the Navy SEAL Foundation. It's actually in the beginning stages, but yes, we're trying to increase the network available across kind of organizations. So there's a lot of nonprofits that they're siloed, and we kind of take the approach of, hey, if we can open the doors to multiple entities that are all designed to help veterans, then the best outcome is usually achieved.
Yeah, no, good. Let's talk, Jerry, a little bit about veteran skills, right? I mean, I think of things like the obvious things, like they can be, strategic planning and just the discipline and teamwork. What are the things that you think, both personally and just from your, your experience in the business world now, that what might be the top 3 or 5 characteristics of and top skill sets that a veteran brings to the workforce?
Yeah, sure. So this is a question I get asked a lot: is how do military skills transition into the business world, and specifically in the private equity space? And my explanation is simple. It's a direct translation. So I was a non-commissioned officer, and my role, to distill my responsibilities, is I was responsible for managing people, processes, and resources. And my metric for success was combat readiness and lethality. Is my team ready to go to combat? And can we be lethal when we get there? Do we have the right tools, the right training, and then obviously the right planning processes? All of those things transition over into the business world. We just use different names for it. So as an operating partner at Colbor, and as the current CEO of Valor Exterior Partners, a PE-backed company, I manage people, processes, and resources. Except my metric for success is profitability. And so the skills that directly translate are our ability to distill complex ideas down to a message that can be understood across, kind of socioeconomic bounds. So as I'm the CEO of an exterior home services company. So we have folks that are college educated all the way down to day laborers. And my experience in working, managing, and leading soldiers that were also across the entire gambit of the entire spectrum of the socioeconomic scale directly translates into managing an exterior roofing or an exterior services company. So that's one. 2, leadership under pressure. So I've led special forces operators in combat many times. Well, there it's life and death. As I lead companies in business, it's financial performance. Maybe they're having a down quarter, or there was some mistake that was very costly to the bottom line. For me, I've been asked, like, hey, you seem pretty calm about this, and my response is kind of in jest, but not really. As long as we're not at risk of losing life, limb, or eyesight, we can everything else buffs out. We'll get it figured out. And in the military, that's kind of the standard, right? Life, limb, or eyesight. That's when you wake up the commander, right? That's always the commander wake up criteria. And for me, if you're going to hit bumps in the road in business, and because I've veterans, many of them have been in those life or death situations. Our ability to continue to lead and manage through highly stressful situations is very beneficial in the business world. We just have a different mindset. And then third,
I mean, it's what's in the context. The context and the perspective is quite different, right?
yes, absolutely. Yep.
So,
And third thing is our focus on execution. So in the military, we plan for a mission and we execute it. You can plan all day, but if your execution is poor, then the mission is going to fail. This is something that is very, very relevant in the business world, especially in the era of, not the era, but especially in the realm of consultants. Consultants are great, really smart folks. They come in, identify your problem, formulate the solution, tell you exactly how to do it. But 9 out of 10 of them drop the plan on the table and walk out the door. No execution. So it's up to the business owner to execute the plan. Well, 9 out of 10 times, the reason they're in that situation is because they failed to execute earlier on in the process at some point. And so,
right,
veterans, we were, to use another military term, fire and forget. Here's your task. Here's your left and right limits. Here are the resources you have to accomplish it. Go do it. And a veteran will get it done. And so at Cold War Capital, Sergio Cepeda, the founder, he has been hiring special operations veterans as his operating partners since 2017. And his mindset is hire for traits, train the skill. So a veteran may not have, 10, 15 years of business experience, but they have 10, 15, 23 years of leadership experience. It's easier for me to train you how to read a P&L and how to pull financial and operational levers to create value than it is for me to train you how to be a leader, instill the characteristics that it takes to be an effective leader. And then, in the case of special operations veterans, that trust and confidence that we're going to make the right decision, even when nobody's looking. And so the ability to deploy a veteran knowing that they're going to make good decisions, be ethical, moral, and be focused on the execution is hugely beneficial to a business, regardless of its size.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's well said. So let's talk a little bit more about private equity, right? If I had to ask you, why do you think, why the middle market, the lower middle market, and maybe why now? Why is this more important than ever, in your mind, that firms like Cold War are focused on this type of the market and the part of the market and doing that right now?
Yeah. So there's a lot of value in the lower middle market, right? You just have to know how to capitalize on it. And Cold War Capital focuses on the lower middle market because there's a lot of value to be created pulling operational levers. So again, going back to my comment about execution, going into a company that's between $500,000 and $5 million in EBITDA is a relative, it's a smaller company, and the majority of companies those sizes are owner founded and operated, and so many of them, especially in the services industries, started off with a truck and a trailer and the founder. And he slowly grew that company to, $10, $20 million in revenue. But he's not formally trained in business, but he knows how to run his or her business, right? So these kind of unsophisticated businesses have a lot of low-hanging fruit that can be harvested by implementing kind of operational processes and procedures that are professionalized. Not saying that what they're doing is unprofessional, but the things that the lower middle market PE firms bring, the systems and processes that a lower middle market PE firm brings to a small business really help turbocharge their growth, helping them scale by providing more capacity for them to grow that top line. And businesses in the lower middle market are also highly fragmented. So, for instance, there's over the industry that I operate in is the residential roofing business and other exterior home services. there's over 100,000 residential roofers in the United States. Less than 3% of them have been aggregated by private equity or large firms. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And most of these businesses are unsophisticated businesses that, again, started off in a truck and trailer and now they've grown. So there's a lot of value to be harvested, if you will, by implementing kind of best in class, things like CRM, financial reporting systems, just sales processes. And so this part of the market presents great opportunity to create value quickly. And so firms like Coldwell Capital are able to leverage their operating partners who have that execution mindset and a great operational playbook to drive that value quickly.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's a brilliant model because, one, it's a very, to your point, Jerry, a very underserved part of the market, right? And then two, I think the 1-2 punch is obviously by bringing kind of the veteran component, to that, and it makes that very unique, and I think also the probability of success, in my eyes, is just a lot higher, right? When you think about it like that. I wanted to talk to you too about kind of one of the things I talked about in some of the preparation with your team was the baby boomers and the up and coming opportunity with baby boomers, and I was hoping you could chat a little bit about that with our audience.
Yeah, sure. So there's roughly, depending on what stat you look at, there's roughly 12 million baby boomer business owners that are set to retire here over the next decade. And that's a lot of businesses. A lot of these baby boomers don't have succession plans. So they either don't have somebody to leave the business to, or they don't have anybody that wants the business. So this presents a great opportunity in the lower middle market for someone to acquire a business, whether that's a PE firm or a veteran working with owners in honor, trying to acquire a cash flowing business. So again, I think that's why private equity is focused on that lower middle market, because many of these baby boomer businesses fall into that category. Anywhere between 200,000 to a few $1 million in EBITDA or discretionary income. So it's a great market. I mean, and buying this presents a great opportunity for veterans who want to acquire a business, because buying a cash flowing business is, I don't want to say risk free, but it really mitigates your risk, because that you have, It's not a startup. You're not trying to create revenue. You're trying to grow it. So as long as you're maintaining it, you can plan on, how are you paying the note on it? Can you pay yourself? Can you pay your employees? So, again, these retiring baby boomers present great opportunity for those willing to put in the work for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up a great point about, I'll just call it, succession planning, right? Like either it's not going to get handed down to the son or the daughter, or the business doesn't have a strong team of lieutenants to run it once the owner or the founder retires. And again, I go back to one of the earlier points we talked about. I do think the lower middle market is very underserved, right, in terms of this model. So I think it's really a great formula. Listen, as we wrap up, Jerry, anything else that you want to add that we didn't talk about that you think, I don't want to put you on the spot, but that you think is important, or that you want to mention, that you think our audience might want to hear from you?
Yeah, I would, I would probably ask business leaders, business professionals, to consider hiring veterans. Yes, our backgrounds aren't necessarily coming from the business world, but again, following Coldwell Capital's model of hire for trait, train the skill, as long as you're willing to invest in the veteran, I'll guarantee you it's going to pay dividends. Veterans have been loyal to an organization for 20 years, and they're just looking for their next the next organization to serve. Most veterans, my leadership style is a servant leader. The needs of the organization will always come before my personal needs, and I firmly believe that that concept is held by most veterans. And so, give a veteran a chance, train him. It's going to pay dividends.
Yeah, perfect. Well, listen, I want to thank you very much for your time today. I want to thank you for your service and really the mission of this, of Colbor, and then the investments they've made. I think is just outstanding. So thank you, and I want to wish you a happy Veterans Day and your colleagues, and I appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me, George.